What's going on? It's Fight Season MMA, and today I want to break down the UFC 303 card that is this weekend on June 29th, and I want to be able to see what fights are going to be winning on the main card and what major fights on the card are truly worth watching. Let's get right into the video. Okay, first thing I want to start with is two fighters that all you guys should be watching. The first fighter is Peyton Talbot. Peyton Talbot is one of the best upcoming prospects in the bantamweight division, and he is fighting Yanis Garamari. And I think Peyton Talbot's going to absolutely whoop this dude. And he is one of the best, most exciting fighters in the new bantamweight division. He has top 5 potential. Even though he is a weird human being, he is a crazy fighter. His fight IQ is up on the next level, and he has crazy power and skills to go along with it. The other fighter that you should be watching is Joe Pyfer. Joe Pyfer just lost against Jack Hermanson in a main event back in February, and this is a lot easier fight for Joe Pyfer with Marc-Andre Barriol, and I think that this will be a good fight to really indicate how good Joe Pyfer is. He could go out there and get the finish right away, and I think that would really improve Joe Pyfer's stock after his last loss against Jack Hermanson. Okay, the first fight I want to start with today is the fight between Michael Venom Page and Ian Gary. This is such an incredible fight, and it's been very overlooked on this card. Everyone's been worrying about the Conor McGregor saga of him pulling out because of that toe. The new addition of Diego Lopez versus Brian Ortega, as well as Anthony Smith fighting Roman Dolidze instead of Carlos Ulberg fighting Jamal Hill. But the one thing that has stayed consistent is Ian Machado Gary fighting Michael Venom Page as the start on the main card this weekend at UFC 303. And this is such an amazing fight. Michael Venom Page last time had a win over Kevin Holland where he outclassed Kevin Holland in every single category. And last time, Ian Machado Gary fought at UFC 298 where he beat Jeff Neal in a very weird but close but also dominant performance. This is going to be a very big test for both Ian Gary and Michael Venom Page, since this is Michael Venom Page's second fight coming over from Bellator, and Ian Machado Gary's best opponent is Jeff Neal. Ultimately, I do think that this fight is going to favor Ian Gary. I do think that Ian Gary's striking is so complete, and that he's going to be able to dial in the range of Michael Venom Page. Although Michael Venom Page I could 100% see getting the best of Ian Gary just because of that his striking uncanny ability, whereas Ian Gary is a much more flow state, a much more textbook striker, whereas Michael Venom Page is incredibly wild. But this fight is going to be the fight to watch for everyone on the card. This is probably going to be my fight of the night going into the card, and ultimately, I truly think that this fight could be the best fight that this card has, one of the best fights of the year, and could be the best fight on this card. My official prediction is I have Ian Gary by decision, but I do think that this fight is going to be a banger in totality. The next fight I want to talk about is Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze, and I have Anthony Smith in this fight just because he's had a little bit more time to prepare than Roman Dolidze, as well as Roman Dolidze coming up in weight because he is a natural middleweight, whereas Anthony Smith is a natural light heavyweight. Roman Dolidze just got absolutely bodied by Nasruddin Imavov in his last fight back in February, and Anthony Smith won his last fight, I think, back in early April at UFC 301. And ultimately, like I said, this fight, it favors Anthony Smith for multiple different reasons, just because he's already in the light heavyweight division. Roman Dolidze is coming up. Roman Dolidze has less notice than Anthony Smith. And ultimately, I think that this fight is going to be a very interesting fight. And my official prediction is I have Anthony Smith by submission in the second round. And then we go to the co-main event, one of the most exciting fights that the UFC could put on in the featherweight division. We got Brian Ortega versus Diego Lopez, and Diego Lopez is the up-and-coming phenom of the UFC featherweight division. His first fight was a fight against Movsar Evloev on short notice, on 10 days' notice or 5 days' notice, where he absolutely stood his own against Movsar, who just beat Arnold Allen at UFC 297. Brian Ortega just beat Yair Rodriguez at UFC Mexico City as the co-main event in a 5-round co-main event where he submitted him in the 3rd round. Ultimately, though, I have Diego Lopez beating one of the most experienced featherweights of all time. Brian Ortega, like I said, has fought Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, Yair Rodriguez, but I think Diego Lopez is going to show the new generation of fighters has another level on top of the older generation. He's so well-rounded. His jiu-jitsu was amazing. His striking is all world class. His last 2 fights have been knockouts, and ultimately Diego Lopez, I think, is going to go out there and beat Brian Ortega, who is an incredible submission threat, an incredible jiu-jitsu artist. But I think that this fight is made for Diego Lopez to win, and I think that this is going to be the start of one of the next best featherweights to come in the next coming years. And last off, we got the main event, Alex Pereira versus Yuri Prohaska, and this is the second fight between them two. The first fight happening at UFC 295 back in November of last year. And this fight is so amazing, like I've always said. Yuri Prohaska is coming in here probably on short notice against Alex Pereira, where he is ready to get revenge, where he was saying that he wanted to have a quick turnaround, especially to fight for the title. And Alex Pereira said the same thing. He wanted to get a short turnaround, possibly to fight Yuri Prohaska in August, and this just happened a little earlier than we thought. Now, I think that this fight favors Alex Pereira in the fact that he is going to be able to employ his his kickboxing ability on Yuri, who is mostly a kickboxer. But Yuri, if he's going to win, he has to switch up into a grappler for this fight. Alex Pereira, as I constantly say, is the greatest kickboxer in the UFC currently, and no one holds a torch to that. He is the pound-for-pound #1 kickboxer in the UFC organization, and if Yuri Prohaska wants to be able to win against Alex Pereira, he's got to be able to have perfect kickboxing all the time, but he's got to tie in the takedown threat constantly, because if he does not, Alex Pereira is going to get too comfortable in there, and he's going to start throwing flying knees, he's going to start throwing punches, kicks, and that patented left hook that is going to ultimately probably put Yuri Prohaska out again. Now, my official prediction for this fight is Alex Pereira, and I got Alex Pereira for a knockout in round 3. Ultimately, I don't think a lot of stuff is going to change between the last fight and this fight with Alex Pereira. I think he's going to go in there, employ his plan, and just dismantle Yuri Prohaska. And I think that this is going to be a harder fight for him because he is on short notice, on like 15 days notice. But ultimately, I think that this fight for Alex Pereira is going to be one where he's going to cement himself as one of the best MMA fighters of this generation, or possibly of all time, if you combine his glory kickboxing days as well as his short UFC career. Thank you guys so much for watching my UFC 303 breakdowns. Please leave comments down below if you believe my predictions are correct or if they're wrong, with all the main card fighters and all the fighters to watch. If you enjoy the content, please leave a like and subscribe. We're on the way to 200 subscribers. And please leave comments down below because I enjoy responding to them and I love hearing what you guys have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you guys very, very soon.